Well, good morning, or good evening, or good afternoon, as it may be, and welcome to take two on New Year's Eve. And I feel your dedication for being here. Actually, if you're watching live right now on New Year's Eve for the second take, I did. Apparently, I had a Joseph G. Farrell moment where my technology broke down on me. So this is the second beginning, and I'm just gonna well I wanted to share with you for New Year's Eve a few thoughts on the world as we're looking into a an uncertain future in 19. Oh no, it's not 1984. We're going to 2023 already. Uh, it's hard sometimes to get. Um, it's hard to differentiate between the different times because we all say that history repeats itself, and it does, and it has, and it will. And thereby, the importance of studying history and why we're all here boils down to that very thing is that the very best of mankind could repeat itself, and the very worst of mankind can repeat itself as well. And the only thing stands in balance of those two is knowledge of things went wrong in the past. And we all hear how it, knowledge of his. We all hear the throwaway sentence of, "Well, we must learn from the past, and history is important, and we need to learn from our history." And but do we really understand just exactly how important it is and where we are today compared to where we were? Because I'm looking at um, don't worry, I promise you, I will end up on a high note. Not the one being that we're all going to die, because we are. That's a high note, because after that, we will no longer have to worry about, politicians, globalists, and all those things. We'll be playing with unicorns and puppies anyway. But there is a higher number before we get to that. There's an intermediate stage, and I will get to the positive of what we can actually do, because as I'm reading a lot of your mail slowly, and way too slowly, and responding even slower. And I am genuinely guilt ridden, but there's only one of me. Um, I get a lot of questions about the world today, about how the historical events of the past have shaped the world today, and the news and media and politicians and politics and business and wars. And it is a non-ending uh, it is a non-ending stream of events that has been unbroken for at least the last 150 years, as we are moving into the closest thing to a feudal system now in the future, as we have had back then. The only difference being the means of technology and surveillance are now so much better than it was 150 to 200 years ago. So now we truly are the peasants with the high and mighty on the hill watching down upon us. That is a scary prospect. And from what I'm reading, what you're sending me, it is frustrating, and it is scary, and you're angry and you want to do something about it. And being the discerning people that you are, since you are watching this, and especially if you're watching here on New Year's Eve, when you should be face down drunk somewhere having fun, living life, because you have to. You have to live your life. You have to have fun. You have to have times where you turn off the TV and turn off your phone and go have fun with your friends and do silly things. Because that is part of human nature. You must have an out. But a lot of you are frustrated, and you are fortunately being here too smart to let that frustration and inactivity turn into a negative, as it does for so many. And it's sad because we see over the past. My study is in history and psychology, and if I look at human nature and I look at history, it's very it's very apparent, very easy to see what is coming, and what is coming, what I see coming, is scares me far more now than it would have done living in Germany or living in Europe in 1939, because I see a onslaught onslaught coming towards anything that you as an individual love, your country, your culture, your heritage, your world, your planet, your family, your sense of family, your sense of belonging, your freedom to protect yourself, your freedom to defend yourself, your economic freedom, your freedom to have cash, to freedom to have money, to freedom to travel, to freedom to think, the freedom to speak and believe whatever deity you believe in. Those freedoms are just like the nation state, the concept of your country, whether you being in Europe or America or Mexico or England or Canada or Africa, Middle East, your nation state, the concept of who you are, your very identity is under threat. And it is. It's very hard to deny what these people, these wonderful globalist super elites are telling us. These are the same people that are telling us that they will keep us protected by telling us what's best for us, while they on the same side is saying the world is grossly overpopulated and something needs to be done. It's a little troubling when it comes out of the same people. So you are worried, and I am worried. And I'll give you a way to navigate through that, because there is a way that we can still maintain our sanity and understand who we are, where we came from, and our history. Because believe it or not, whether you are black or white or Asian or Mexican or Hispanic or whatever you are, wherever you're from, whatever your heritage is, we that actually go to work and make money and pay taxes, we have far more in common than we have with the people on top of the hill. The one percenters that are governing us have no idea who we are or what's important to us. More in common with the homeless guys outside who's trying to make a living than we have with people in Washington or in CERN or the Economic Forum or all these muppets in the EU, UN, the unmasked bureaucrats that are pushing laws down your throat every morning and you don't even know they're being made because you didn't vote for them. And it gets frustrating, and I get your letters and I get your emails and I understand it. I'm frustrated too. But there is a way for us to maintain our sanity. But what we do here is history, and always has been, and I've always tried my very best to keep history and politics apart, because I always thought it was unbecoming of a historian to involve politics in a debate, because now politics is everything. We are being divided by a false narrative that there's politics in everything. My God, the color of toilet paper, oh, it's racist. Nothing, like I said, we have more in common, us people, normal people, left, right, center, than with them. It's what we believe in, and it's what we know. And when we have politics thrown at us from every angle, even where it shouldn't be, it's not for no reason. Nothing happens organically. No revolution grew up organically and accidentally just grew and happened. No organization, no demonstration, no protest. Nothing happened organically ever. Everything happened for a reason. It was created, it was governed, it was forced, it was colluded, it was paid for. But it didn't just happen organically. And we are now at a point where, after the series that I've done, it is time where I'm still not going to go out and start doing political analysis of today's politics, because we live in a world where in most countries, Western countries, prostitution is illegal, but it is still legal to be a politician. And quite frankly, I think you would probably do the world more good if it was the other way around, because at least there's some benefit out of one. Politics, by definition, if the means of doing the things that nobody wants done. And remember, politicians have two objectives only in any country. One is to get elected. The second is to get reelected. And we can at least do something to shake the re-election. And this is not just America. This is Europe. This is England. This is Canada. This is all the countries where we used to believe we had a functioning democracy of governance for and by the people, where we believed our freedoms and independence was impregnable, inassailable, which we have now found it is not. But all that, and the hype and the news and the media circle, that all of it is created to keep you off center, to stop you from centering yourself, feet on the ground, asking yourself, who am I and what do I believe in? The only thing you have left is your own moral constitution, your sense of self. And your sense of self, to a degree, comes from the knowledge of history, of your history, for good or bad, for wherever you came from, of wherever your heritage is, whatever your heritage is. I'll be proud of it. Because if you ate meatballs in one country, you ate sausages in the other. Well, guess what? That's where you came from. That's part of who you are. And knowing history, like we know history, and you know history because you are here. And the reason why you are here is because you want to know more than the mainstream narrative of history that has been so eroded and so rewritten to the point where some historical documentaries and history books no longer contains history, but in the truest tradition of communist rewrites, they have erased the names and events and dates. Remember, after communist revolutions, two things are certain. Millions of people will be killed and starved and enslaved, as they still are today, and thousands of people and key events will be erased as if they never happened, just like we're doing today. While we like our history or not, it is our history, and we need to stand by it, not destroy it or erode it. But that's how communists, Marxists needs to get rid of who you were in order to tell you who you are. And now we have an outright assault on men are not allowed to be men, women are allowed to be women. Gay people are practically not even allowed to be gay. I have gay friends that are complaining they're not gay enough because they don't want to be the other sex. And if you're a teenager, so help you God, you are in the middle of an onslaught from professors and teachers and mass media and the TikToks and Facebooks and all this nonsense that are all pulling you in different directions, giving you a false impression of who you need to be. And you need to be able to turn all this off and step away and be who you really are. And remember that tomorrow you can be a better person than you were today by learning and knowing and moving forward. We're people. We're directional. We focus on things, on events, on knowledge that we want to know. And we move towards that, and we have to. And that is the most important thing for human beings, is we must have a function, a sense of self, a reason for being. Whether you're retired or you don't have a job, if you don't have a job, get a job. Get a job that you can identify with where your income comes from. There's nothing worse than the concept of universal income, where you're paying people to sit home and do drugs and play video games and lose themselves in how much bigger the Kardashians' butt got since last time. It's not real news. It is all fake. It's all make-believe. And you are letting people you don't know, you don't care about, who doesn't care about you, influence your life. And if you are a young person today, it's hard, and we need to support our young. And we need to support our parents who are sending, and certainly in America, but last 30, 40, 50 years, the socialist, Marxist, communist dogma have overtaken most of our educational institutions. So now we spend thousands and thousands of dollars sending our kids off to college, and they come back hating the country and hating you, because that's what they have now been indoctrinated to do. You're better off sending your kids to trade school. You're better off sending your kids to, I would say, the military, but currently, I don't know if I can recommend that, and that is scary. We live in a world where when you take away sense of self, sense of country, sense of history, patriotism, and you erode the military and the borders and the nation state, you erode your very existence. So now you have to recreate yourself in who you really are. And that is okay. But that also means that you have to understand how you react to all these stimuli and why you react to history. Because you are, by definition, since you're watching this, interested in history, and you want to know more and you want to know details. And especially this year, we're going to have to talk about the details. We're going to have to talk about how we got from World War One to World War Two, and who created it, and how we got till today. Because the same forces that kept World War II going, that put Hitler in power, Stalin in power, that Churchill in power, the same forces, the same economic forces that made that happen, well, they're the same people making money of Ukraine today. And make no mistake about it, the Ukrainian people are dying, just like the German people are dying in the bombing of Germany, and the British people are dying in the Blitz during the Second World War. People are dying, while the leaders are sitting huddled in their bunkers deep underground, counting their money. At the end of the war, Hitler was one of the richest men in Europe. At the end of the war, and he was practically, basically not even for profit. That was Bormann that took care of that. There's always a gray eminence behind our leaders counting the money that we are dying for. And we're still sending soldiers off to fight for other people's borders while neglecting our own. While you are in Europe, in England, and Britain, in America, we live in scary times, and you are frustrated. So what can we do? We can start by digging into history. And the study of history is emotionally fascinating. And we have to dig in who you are. To find out who you are, you have to understand your emotions, and you have to understand how you react to things. Now, normal history, the study of people and politics and bridge building and printing press and ancient Rome, and it's interesting. You learn, you go, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Didn't know this. But the study of military history, now that you go from, holy hell, they did that. They did that. You are going from one state of amazement to another of something amazing that human beings did or endured, good, bad, big, sophisticated, technical, amazing structures, the bunkers, the forts, the places we go. And that's why sometimes we have to mix the sophisticated, who did it, Nazi machinations, with let's just go visit a really amazing fort because it's just cool to see. That's our out. But we live in learning. And we going from this amazement to another state of amazement from learning. We're not just sitting on TikTok wasting our mind away or playing video games or doing drugs, which is what people without focus does. During the pandemic, more people died from drug use or suicides than anything else because they couldn't work. You take work away from a lot of people, you take the function away. If you take the function away, then they succumb to drugs and depression and alcohol and horrible things. And that is why we now, with an interest of history, and a lot of you guys are helping and have made it your mission to help me bring this stuff to light or take you to places where you can go, which is amazing to me. But that is, we are all making ourselves little missions. Whether your mission is to get up and go to the gym and be stronger tomorrow than today, or to play a better tennis game, or to find a better job, or earn a little more, or get a new car, have a mission. Never wake up in the morning without having a mission. You need something to do that you need to do. Always do that. And you take that away from sports psychology, from the very existence as human beings. We need to know that we are appreciated. One of the problems with the women's liberation movement back in the day, not what has happened to it today, which is really in trouble. But by then, while you coming up in the 70s, you get women saying, we don't need you, we can make our own money, which is conflicting men because, well, not that it's about money, not money, but we were supposed to be the caretakers and providers, and we create a home and you have children and we have a house and we have 2 cars and I have a job, and we were men and we took care of things because that's what real men do. We take care of things. We do stuff. And sometimes we do stupid stuff. And sometimes we go to war and we fight and we rage. And we have to, as real men with testosterone, who's attracted to real women, we have to be who we are. And we have to understand how to be powerful and have that power and how to exercise that power productively. We have to be capable of protecting our family, protecting our women, protecting our children, because we're physically stronger, but meant to be what they are. And there's a conflict that started then when all of a sudden women came up and said, we don't need you. What do we do then? Oh, we'll go off to war. Um, and now you have this division of people that is all artificial, because if we actually started bringing us back to our roots, that's what history does. You'll find out who you really are, and we are who we are, defined by how we interact with others, how we are a good or a bad person to others. Do we make other people's lives better? That's what we can do. Create the sense of community, of neighborhoods, of friends, of families, of extended friends and families. Because in the bigger picture, we can't all run for office, and we probably shouldn't, because what a horrible bunch of people we would be then. But we can take care of our own little part of the world, and that's what we need to do. You need to know your neighbors, know the people across the street. You need to be able to help and protect and care for, and be who you are. And be who you are, you need to know your history, because only through history will you understand what human beings are truly capable of. Because we're looking at today, we see these mindless videos of stupid people doing stupid things, of how weak and pathetic they are, of teenagers who can't open a can of food for one. And it is sad. We are eroding and destroying our military. I can't go run the obstacle course in the military because of liability. We have liabilitized ourselves out of existence, because we have gone from a historical world of we can do things, we can endure things, we can go through hardships, because life is sometimes hard, and it has to be, because that builds character, and character builds a better world. So if we can't go through hardship ourselves, at least learn from the damn hardships of the generations before. People suffered enormously, and they still suffer today. And this is where we are looking at history versus fake stimuli, by fake news, fake media, fake inputs, all this false inputs that are created to get you riled up every 15 minutes with another fake story. So you have to either you have to live on the excitement or the nervousness of there's every 15 minutes, the news cycle, something is trying to kill you. And next will be the aliens coming. At least that's what Von Braun said. Maybe not the real aliens, but they're certainly going to tell you that they are. Because if it's not the terrorists, it's the aliens. It's someone is coming to get you. In the meantime, the globalists are coming to get you, and they're actually taking away everything that you could have. But that is the distraction. They don't want you to look at what's really happening. They want you to be constantly confused. And if you have to start looking at what's actually going on, to study. Now you have to research, and it takes time, and you have to do jobs. Then you have 3 kids, and it's stressful. And I get it. You have to keep yourself informed, but you also have to keep yourself grounded. And at this point in time, it's probably more important you keep yourself grounded in who you are, based on your own internal constitution. As a human being, who are you? Sense of self. Turn off all the media. Well, not until I'm done talking. Then turn off all the media. Turn everything off. Have a little bit of silence. Turn off the TV. Don't watch the news. Watch a couple of news sources you trust once a week. Don't watch it every day. You don't want to. You don't need to. It is not healthy. Focus on yourself. Focus on making your life better. Focus on your friends. Or as I do, focus on history. History will eventually lead us to where we are today, which is sad and tragic. But if we follow the historical lines and the teaching from history, we will understand why we are where we are. And we'll begin to piece together what we can do about it. Because we need to do something. And that's the part where you take your frustrations and go, and I get your mails, and I read your comments, and you are frustrated and pissed off. Your leaders don't care. In Europe, you're governed by bureaucrats. No one have any idea who they are. They don't give a damn about you. They don't give a damn about Washington, the people that governs England. If anybody actually is governing England, I'm not entirely sure anybody is. For the British, you know what I mean. You have a police force with a 1.4% crime solving rate. 1.4% of British crimes. Are you kidding? Why do you even have a police force? You have so 1,000 immigrants coming to England ashore a day. We had 5 million immigrants in the last 2 years cross the Mexican border. And with that comes sex trafficking, sex slavery, drugs, drug trade all over Europe, in America, everywhere. Everything's being turned upside down. And the only thing that no one cares about is you. And no one cares about your nation, your country, your safety. And this is where we go back to history and say, well, on one hand, people are starting talking about, you have to remember history, then you have to remember all of it, not selectively as they would like. When I see, we talked about slavery, which is obviously a horrible thing that happened. And now I see the British royals that are traveling around the world apologizing for everything, willing to take apart the British Empire based on their colonies and enslavement. However, what you don't hear is after the British abolished slavery, they had warships sailing the seas for decades, intercepting slave ships, just taking apart and the slave trade, arresting slave traders, freeing slaves. The British Empire spent more money after slavery had been abolished, rescuing, saving, protecting slaves around the world, the former slaves around the world, than they had made from the slave trade. But you don't ever see the British getting any credit for that. They did everything they could to make up a wrong. I dare say we did in America as well. But it's not good enough. Now we have to be divided. Because if we were united, as we should be, because we have a lot more in common than we have with them who are sitting up on the hill. So if you have to remember history, remember history. If you have to remember World War II history, as we here spend so much time on, because it's, gee golly, it's just a wonderful war with so many interesting stories. You go back to, we can talk about the tanks and the bombers and the jets and the rockets and the planes and the bunkers, and it is awesome to look at these cool places. But we don't talk about, and you probably ever talk about in high school or college, well, how did this happen? Well, this evil man Hitler and this evil man Stalin, although I'm sure most of the college professors think Stalin was a great man, despite he killed way more people than Hitler ever did. Mao killed 60 million Chinese in the Chinese Revolution and has slave camps all over the country today. But we don't talk about that kind of slavery. 4 million women and children are sold into slavery every year. And where are the damn warships sailing the seas to protect them today? We don't see. They don't have a lobby. You see, women sold into sex trade. They don't have politicians. There's no votes in it. So they're really not interesting. It is disgusting that we have politicians, that women and children, and that both boys and girls that are being sold and traded around the world. I don't see a damn ship anywhere doing anything about it. What you're talking about, you may want reparations for something that happened 150, 60 years ago to someone that you were related to. It's not good enough. So if you want to take a stand, take a moral stand and understand what is right and wrong. Look at the hardship that people have endured to the point where we are now having a direct assault on our foods, our electricity, our power, our infrastructure, in the name of something that I guarantee you will not kill any one of you looking here. And where is the support for the Dutch farmers that are fighting to preserve and keep their farms so they can keep making food for you? What are the idiot Muppet Bill Gates that are buying farmland to leave it idle because, it pollutes to make food? These are the people who say there's too many people in the world, but take our advice. We'll tell you what to do to keep you safe. Someone wrote me and asked me, are our leaders actually trying to kill us? I'm like, yeah, pretty much, yes, they are. They don't know you. They don't care. They don't know you like I do. Um, and we have to stand together and unite in a sense of common sense, in a sense of community and smaller communities where we can actually take care of each other, because we are all we have, and that goes all over the world. But there's one thing you can do, and you should do for your own self of sanity, because, like I said, I get a lot of questions on this, and you have to do something because you see the frustration. You want to do something. You want to act, and obviously, you can't all take the streets and riot like those insane leftists and communists because they get paid to go riot. Don't think that they're not getting paid. Like I said, no grassroots movement happens organically. Everything is organized. I was there on the front line in my uniform with the riots here. They all got paid. It was all organized. It was all the setup. The bricks showed up the day before. They were bussed in white vans. Nothing was it's a spontaneous uproar to an event. Everything was graphed for politics. So we are not them, although we probably should start taking the streets and demonstrating before we lose all our power, electricity, and food, because it is coming to the point where, well, let's start taking our cash away and do complete digital control, like the World Economic Forum said, because they say what they're going to do. It's not a conspiracy, although most of the things that you say are conspiracies 2, 3, 4 years ago, now is proving that they're all coming true, which is scary. Just because something is a conspiracy doesn't mean it's not true. But you see what they are saying, what they want to do of biometric surveillance. They are telling you exactly what they're going to do. You're not listening. Hitler wrote in Mein Kampf exactly what he was going to do. And then he did it, and you're all surprised. Which is a surprise. But what you can do is you can start, for your own sanity, write the people that can make a difference. One letter a day, one email. Email is not as much. A real letter is one thing, or a phone call, even better. Whether you're in Europe, a European country, you're in America, you're in England, send a letter once a day, send an email once a day, make a phone call once a day. To your representative, to your prime minister, to your local mayor, to the head of the school, to your school headmaster, who has so much power over the crap they're teaching your children around the world. Write these people one letter. Nothing threatening, nothing like that. But explain them why what they're doing is wrong, why you will never vote for people like that, why you need to see them take action to protect their nation. Constitution would be nice if anybody would bother fighting for that here in America. Do something. Then you can go to bed once a day. Once a day, you can go to bed once a day, hopefully. You can go to bed at night and say, I did something. Let the frustration out in a letter and explain to them. Because the one thing the politicians, if we let's just hypothetically, for the fun of it, say that we have semi-honest elections in Europe and here, and if you take away the 90% false information or propaganda out of the media, which is directing votes, which is vote influencing, which can also say to be corrupting elections, because most of you are not getting the info. Almost of you guys are, because I know you guys what you're listening to, because you're here, so you're smart. But a lot of people, they don't have the time to just dissect the 10-second sound bites, and they have been conditioned for decades to believe the mainstream, and they don't get the information they need to actually vote as what's best for them. And by that say, we have voter election fraud, we have voter meddling all over the world, because if you're not getting information, the true information to the electorates, then you are influencing elections negatively. That's why you need to keep yourself informed and dig a little deeper and look at what the people who are in office have been doing for the past 4 years. What did they do 10 years ago? What did they believe in? What did they write? Who are they? Why do they deserve your vote? Because maybe they don't. And that is the study you have to take the time to do, because it will still make a difference. After that, then there's the protests. And that starts with every one of you every day, write a letter, write an email, make a call to a representative. just let your voice be heard, because that might actually worry them that if enough people start writing or calling, maybe they actually have to do something. They live in their own little bubble. They're only advised by the bureaucrats, which is apparently also a profession that is still legal. Um, and I don't know why. These people are the ones influencing whoever's in office. Write them, maybe write the bureaucrats, because they don't seem to be in touch at all with the human race. And you have to remember the other side, the ones who are trying to take your freedoms and health and destroy you and corrupt your historical learning. They don't sleep. They love to be on school boards. They love to protest because they have nothing else. They have a function. They have a reason to get up. That's to destroy what you have. That is to destroy everything they think is a system that's wrong, because they have been misinformed for the last 40 years. Remember KGB dogma in propaganda, soft coercion is you slowly infiltrate all the instruments of information, like the schools, where the communists love to be the schools, the boards, all these institutions where you can quietly sit in the dark and influence other people's lives and influence the learning of history and teach your kids they teach your kids. And that is scary, because that means you have several generations now. I think you have 4 generations that has been influenced against the nation state, against freedom, against the very essence of what we should have learned from history. So that's why we're here. We have to learn from history ourselves, and we have to make it organically, because they don't like to talk about the deeper aspects of how and why do these things keep happening. I have no idea how many times in my life we were all going to die from something, and now there's actually somebody here showing up at work. This is just perfect. Did I mention that I'm working today? So now you get to look at the wall for a minute. This is just perfect. Damn. All right. We're back again. This is the weirdest world I've ever. But see, I am at work. It is New Year's Eve. I have a function. Do you know what my function is? I am working my ass off so I can get up tomorrow. Well, not tomorrow, but next year. Well, next year is tomorrow. Anyway, so I can go travel and I can discover places you haven't seen. That is my function. It's the only function I have left, is actually to discover and see places, because I don't have any kids, don't have a dog, don't have any family. So, would be easy for me to fall into the trap of, well, I don't have any reason to get up in the morning. Why? What is my motivation? My motivation is you guys, to a large extent. A couple of months ago, I was on the West Wall looking at a battlefield for an old veteran that he sent me. I think my grandfather fought here. He couldn't go himself, and he wanted to show his son where granddad fought with his unit. And I found some of the bunkers of the West Wall his granddad had destroyed. And I could, well, you haven't seen it yet, but you will. And that is awesome. That is a good motivation, because I guess I can save up, like I said, everything from YouTube, everything from donations, everything from the website goes into the Travel Around the World account. And now we're getting to the point of that is my motivation. And besides the collection of Harley Davidsons and firearms, but that's a different story. We have to have small intermediate goals. I've competed in sports a lot, and you have to have, I can't better my time, or I can't lift a pound more by tomorrow. So you have to set part goals, and you have to do that in your own life as well. You have to set a reason again for tomorrow to get up. And one of the things that I would like to try to break down is for next year, is that I started looking. We have to talk a little bit about who, why, and how did these instruments put these people in power? What businesses and bankers and gold? How does it all tie together? And it does tie together. And like I said, they're all related to the people who are in charge of the businesses today. Everything is about money. And one thing that is so frustrating is you see history repeat itself because no one knows and no one cares. You see what's happening in Ukraine. It's not any, and this to the detriment of the Ukrainian people, is that whole situation is so fraught with corruption. And no one wants to talk about that because everybody's making money on it. And in the middle of that, the Soviet soldiers are suffering, the Ukrainian people are suffering, everybody on the ground, the little people are dying. And they haven't, clearly, no one's learned from the history yet, because not from the history of the battles of the war and the animosity on the ground, but the fact that there are bigger people making money on it. Just like so many American companies made money on building German trucks, tanks and planes that went off to fight and kill American soldiers. And after the war, some of the American-owned businesses in Germany actually got reparations from the Allies that had bombed their factories, that was creating weapons, that was killing their sons, because they've been bombed by the U.S. Air Force. So they had to get, they got money back, which is ridiculous. And you look at gold that went all over the world, some 880 tons of gold that Germany found, where 330 of that went through Switzerland. 330 went to the Bank of International Settlements, which Alan Dulles sat on the board with the Governor of Bank of England and Hjalmar Schacht. And throughout the entire, these people were all talking to each other. They were all meeting. They were all doing deals. Things were oils and parts were still being sold to the Germans through proxy companies, and it all continued after the war. And it's all still in existence today. And here we are, sending our kids off to war so somebody else can make money. So we learn from history and we write intelligent conversations and complaints and letters and emails to the people who want to listen. It will make you feel better, having at least expressed something, a little bit of fight back. And if you are in Europe, in any European country, you really need to start writing your governments to step away from the green insanity, the World Economic Forum, and the EU, because they are not meaning you well. And one can certainly say the same thing about the country, the government we have here, if we can call them that. And Canada, oi, England, oi. We are not looking at a positive future. So we have to make it one individually. And I think that's what it's going to happen. Come down to, it's going to break down into individual small communities where we have each other to watch out for, which may not actually be a bad thing. You have to prepare for this. And you have to have, if they get rid of cash, I would suggest you spend the last of what you have in bank, buy assets that can translate into cash, probably buy gold or whatever you use. I'm not a financial advisor, but if I'm going to save up on anything, it would be on gold and bullets and stuff that can turn into value if it comes to the point where cash is no longer worth it. That's the depressing part of where things are going, but we shall see. And now it's New Year, and I'm looking forward to the next year of exploration out in Europe. I got, of course, a letter from George. I got him send me a bunch of pictures, but of course all the pictures from the Jonasdal episode we saw yesterday Of how the city excavated and cleaned up things. Of course, they took a lot of pictures and videos when they sealed up all these bunkers and stuff, and of course, they haven't given them to him or anybody else. So we shall try. Yes, if I start running for, I'm just laughing at Coulton here. Nobody would ever want me in politics, especially all the other politicians, and then half of the country, because, well, what would I do? What would I do as president or governor? Well, let me give you a hint, and this is why I would never, ever, 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 ever get elected for anything anywhere. First of all, mandatory 10-year prison sentence for rapists, mandatory prison sentence for drug dealers of quantity, child molesters, mandatory 10-year prison sentence, human traffickers, mandatory 15-year prison sentence, mandatory. And you know what? I'm not going to make them sit idle in prison and do nothing but sit there and lift weights. I'm going to actually make them stick in some factories and make them do labor and make them do things and produce things. So give something back to the communities. After that, I'll take some of the empty military bases, refurbish them, fence them in with security, nurses, healthcare staff, psychiatrists, therapists, and then I would try to relocate all the homeless people. We have a couple 100,000 of them in California alone into safe, secure environment where we can get drugs away from them. Would I seal off the border? Oh, I would make the border here like if I was in Europe or anywhere else. Every nation state's border would look a little bit like the East German border. And I damn well guarantee you that drug dealers would not make it across. See why I'm not going to get elected? Very simple. There would be an active investigation into human trafficking and sex slavery, and half of the IRS would probably be fired. Half of the FCC, well, all of the FCC I would abolish. Spending, yes, but I would probably do 1 year mandatory military service for everybody between 18 and 35. Probably, yes. I would build a whole lot more trade schools, colleges, so people can learn how to build infrastructure, bring our industry back to this country. Like same thing going in Europe. In Europe, I would stand by the same policies. And then we would have a whole lot of talk about immigration, of actually inviting immigrants who can better this country, as well as also work in it. And let's see, what else would we do? Yeah, there would be no universal income. I'm not going to say that I would abolish the Fed or anything like that, because then I'll just be murdered. We'd probably have to have a little work, look at some of the intelligence and justice departments as well. See why I'm not getting elected? See? Anyway, all right, so let's take some questions, because now that I've done this twice today, and the IRS has the biggest army. Yeah, abolish the IRS. Krupp. Oh, I mean, Krupp was instrumental in the Franco-Prussian War, 1970. Sold weapons, 1870s. Sold weapons to both sides, and then Krupp sold weapons to both sides of World War One, and then they did World War Two. And then by that time, half the family was old and dead and decrepit, so eventually they just turned into a smaller company. IG Farben was deeply in business with American industry. Ford owned lots of factories in Germany, vice versa. We're going to go over a lot of that in the weeks and the months to come. And special travel plans. I think I'm going to be spending a lot of time in Europe, in Poland, because there's a lot of places in Poland that I would like to explore more. Hopefully this year we get to go out and get enough money together to empty all the water out of the blockhouse, so we can go underneath that. There's a couple of tunnels I went halfway to that I know there's more to that I got to go back to, both in France. I have a meeting with BIG out in Austria where they want to sit down and talk about what they did in Berchtesgaden. There's a couple of Austrian politicians that are interested in joining that meeting as well. So we have to go to Austria, see if we can get them to show us Kellerbau. There's a couple other things out there I want to see as well. Of course, Germany. Now, the interesting thing is, and you haven't seen this yet, because it's not there yet, I spent some time with General Kamla's family, and we email often and we exchange information. And one thing that um, Himmler gave Kamla a map with notations, and Kamla made notations on that map in the area around Jonastal. There's or other areas of Austria as well. There's some names, there's some code, and they shared some of these with me, and I know of locations that Kamla penciled out on his map with notations and lines and arrows. Been to some of them. In an ideal world, we are going to have to. Everything boils down to money, and every time someone writes, "Well, you need this, you need that," it's like, yeah, I need to win the lotto is what I need. We need a LiDAR drone, a GPR drone. We don't need LiDAR. We need a GPR drone. From my understanding, drones can scan further into the earth than above the thing you pull above the ground. And we need to look deep underground in around Jonastal and Arnstadt and Krawinkel, and because everywhere we go, yeah, maybe there's just a green grass lawn and there's nothing there, but there's something underneath, and we need to look in underground. What company supplied the war effort and what happened to them after the war, along with people supplies. Yes, that is exactly what I am going to be doing. That's I talked quite a lot about that. Well, today I did anyway. But yes, that will happen, and especially with the gold and the assets. And if you have income owing more than $1 million, make pounds, euros. I'll put them in Swiss bank accounts. Trust me. Now how do I get rid of this thing? So yes, Untersberg. Yes. That is, yes, I probably will. Wewelsburg, I've been. Not much to see there. They sanitized it completely. There's nothing really interesting there. And they don't want to do interviews and talk about all those nasty things that happened during the war. Speaking of nasty things that happened during the war, you all saw my documentary on the Annenerbe. We're also talking about the Lebensborn. And we talk a little bit about the T4 program. And we talk about history repeating itself. The T4 program, someone wrote me and asked me about the T4 program, how different that is from the T4 program that is going on in Canada today with active medical assisted death. I would almost say this is one of those conversations where we're going to have a little conversation about, we're going to have a program talking about the Canadian active death assistance to render to people who are depressed teenagers, anybody self-conscious of their own being, which means they're old enough to sort of understand they exist. And if they're depressed and want to die, they will give them all the help in that. In fact, they have offered. Okay, I don't know what the hell's going on in Canada, but this is one story that really got me, and this is something that's coming near you as well, because if it started in one of these fascist countries, sorry, I reclassified Canada, you are by now a fascist country. If the government will take your guns, close your bank accounts, sequester your money, and now actively suggest that you get medically killed if you are unhappy, sad, in pain, instead of treating your symptoms, you are a fascist country. Sorry, Canada. Time to flee to America and get a new gun. I heard the story when it broke, the way it was broken to me, that there was a paraplegic veteran that had gotten injured serving the Canadian military. Paraplegic, competed in the Paralympics as well, but as she was a lady, as she was getting older, she was having trouble getting up in her house, and she was trying to get money for a wheelchair ramp in her house for the Canadian VA. And after 2 years, remember, this is not only this is a Canadian citizen, this is a paraplegic woman who's paraplegic because she was injured in serving in the Canadian military and deployed and wounded and on service. And not that that even matters. She's just a human being who has a life. She still competed in sports, but yes, it's getting harder. And they sent her a letter back that was read. It's online in many places. They would not give her a wheelchair ramp, but if her life was so hard to get around, they would assist her in dying with the MAD, medical assisted death. So far, Canadians have killed over 10,000 people in medical assisted death. If you are depressed, you're a teenager, you're depressed, you have a bad day, you're horrible, you want to die, and you tell a doctor, this can be facilitated with one meeting in one day. What if you had a better day tomorrow? Now, the T4 program in Germany, they took medically, they medically killed people who were handicapped, disabled, mentally disabled, retarded, physically disabled, and euthanized them. Where the first, and this is where you get into a moral conversation, where the first case was, I think, baby Noah, I think his name was, where the children's parents had petitioned Hitler in the mid-30s if they could have their doctor euthanize their child because he was born no arms, no legs, blind and deaf, and also mentally retarded. And Hitler had his personal physician visit the baby, and the baby was then. I'm sorry, if you're born, you can't hear, you can't talk, you can't see, you have no arms or legs. I would want to be put to sleep. Never. I don't want to go into the religious parts of that conversation because that becomes a whole different mess. But from the outset, the idea behind the German T4 program was to take those who were mentally incapable of sustaining themselves and put them to sleep because they were put them to death, please call it what it is, because they were a burden on society. In Canada, if you're having a bad day, they'll put you to death instead of helping you. Because, well, there's a homeless guy in Canada. He was running out of money. No, he wasn't homeless yet. He was losing. He was running out of money. He couldn't afford to pay for his rent and his medical treatment, and he was sick. He was in bad shape. He had all different illnesses, and he was looking at the prospect in Canada of becoming homeless without medical care. So he chose medical suicide. He didn't want to die. He said that he didn't want to die. He would want to live. But it probably would be better for him to die controlled that way than to die in pain on the street, because that was his two alternatives in Canada. Thank you, Canada. Who did you vote for? What animal did you vote for? All right, fine. I'm trying not to get mad here. I mean, we're supposed to live in the pinnacle of civilization where we have all this medical technology, and yet now the powers that be do not want to help people because it's expensive? Well, whose fault is that? Because they're not useful to society? How are we treating the old people? Well done, New York. Well, let's take all the old people, send them back, the ones with COVID, send them back to their homes so they can affect everybody else. What, how about 15, 20, 30,000 old people in New York died that way? Where's the respect and the humanity? And now you look back on history and say, well, there are cultures of people that hates us, that treat their elderly with more respect and more care than we do. But we are the civilized ones, right? It makes the lines a little murky, doesn't it? Anyway, that's what is coming if you are not contributing. So you better not think about retiring because who wants to be a useless eater here? Yes, there's the wrong people in leadership positions around all of Europe, all of America, all of the world. And you're looking at these gigantic United Nations. They're not united, and they're not really nations either. How many chairs in the United Nations are not representing nations? And China, Well, China, they want to ascend. China wants to take over the. Oh, if I was president, that's the other thing I would do. I would fire every teacher, professor that would teach anti-Americanism in American schools, and I would close the Confucius Institutes in American colleges that is teaching the way of Mao of communism in our American colleges. I mean, how dare you? How dare you? I'm sorry. We have what's it? Harvard has a Sharia law department. Apparently, I think the Sauds gave them a whole new wing. So again, we're selling out for money, not for morality, not for personal values, because our leaders don't have any. They don't. So therefore, you must have. You must learn from what history taught us. And you must have moral values and moral courage to stand by who you are. But don't be stupid. I mean, you don't go to the wrong neighborhood and demonstrate and get yourself locked up, knowing that Yuri Besimov. I am a big fan of Yuri Besimov. I have heard all his speeches, and on my both on my Patreon and on Lost Battlefields, I posted several speeches by Yuri Besimov. I actually started looking for him. I did not know. Yuri Besimov was a KGB defector, and he defected. He defected because he wanted to warn the West about what the KGB and the Russians were doing, and with their quiet subversion of American media and schools and politics. And so the communists were always good at that. We always kind of, it'll be fine. And he died at age 51 and 85. And very few people die at 85. I would be surprised if he wasn't killed. I had hoped that I could do an interview with him because he went off and he tried to warn everybody against the dangers of communism, against the dangers of what the KGB propaganda was doing. And nobody listened. Nobody wanted to hear him. He risked his entire life and existence. It probably cost him his life to warn you, and people didn't listen. So that's why I posted some of his video. It's very, very, very interesting with Yuri Besimov because what he said in 1984, if I didn't tell you he said it in 1984, and I told you he said it yesterday, it's uncanny. Social justice, all that nonsense that's going on today, he talked about it in 1984. Do look him up or pop in on the website. Yes, it's funny when you looked at the World Socialist Forum, World Globalist Forum, who talked about how great COVID was because they could then implement biometric surveillance of people. They said it. It's online. Just like Bill Gates said that if we mandate our vaccines correctly, we can reduce the world population by 10%. And he said this 15 years ago. These people have a problem saying what they're trying to do. That's the interesting thing. European politicians are smart in the sense that they don't blurt out what they're going to do like the idiot American politicians who just, wow, we're going to take all your cars, we're going to take your guns, we're going to... There was a survey of be the Democrat Party. I'm now not doing Democrat Republicans because at this point in time they're all idiots. So let's I don't care. I gave up. But there was a survey of the Democrat voters. How many would have people who didn't want to take the vaccine locked up and had their children taken away? And I believe it was 73%. So now we have divided the world to the point where we are ready to commit mass incarcerations and genocide because of the division that has been forced on us. It's not a real division, because I don't think you could find most people who have a day job where I couldn't sit down, talk to, and agree with on 99% of everything. And you're insane. And you just, that's another thing that has come out of the last 2 years is that now they really have done themselves a number, because now they have created the response to the pandemic have been so insanely wrong and mishandled and restrictive that if you are a smart thinking individual, you no longer officially will believe anything they say. And I don't think there's a lot I would hear. Me, anybody else? Yes, there are people who live only on the news from the mainstream news and media. They have been fed with it their whole lives. They will, and you can an argument with them because that is all they have heard. Remember what the KGB, what Yuri said about how the KGB you take over a nation, take over one full generation of the school, educate them in your direction. It takes one generation. The schools belong to them for 3 or 4 generations. So the people in power, the bureaucrats, the people who are making laws, who are advising our politicians here as well as in Europe, are now on an extreme leftist, borderline fascist mindset. You can't argue with them because it would take an act of God, which they don't believe in anyway, to make them admit that they are wrong. I don't even know what it would take to make them believe they're wrong. And now on the other side, having seen the lies and the stories and the misrepresentation and the outright fake news, I mean, when like him or hate him, a lot of the things that Donald Trump did was actually really, really good for this country's economy and for the nation and for the nation's self. Nothing wrong with being a patriot. Just don't try to, being in politics, don't try to run being patriotic. They only want to beat the patriotic drum when they need soldiers to go off to fight somebody else's war somewhere. Remember the idiot McConnell said the most important thing for Republicans is to send money to you. Yeah, it's not really important to. I mean, God bless my friends in Ukraine. I hope they all come out of it safely. I would love to go back. I would love to help my friends in the Ukraine. But I really would like to secure our borders instead of sending money to the Middle East to secure their borders, as they just did. But anyway, speaking of Trump, you would hear him say one thing, and then 1 minute later, you would hear in any of the mainstream media it being misquoted. And most people, they only hear the misquotation. They go, oh, I hate him because look at what he just said. It doesn't matter if he said something else. It doesn't matter. And that is the way propaganda works. It's the first strike you hear. Goebbels was smart. And if Goebbels had the technology that we do today of communication or subversion of communication and control the information, I don't know if he could have done a much better job than he did with what he had, because even Hitler knew it. Already back in the 1920s, he started buying newspapers, control information. And that is what we have now. We do not have a balanced informational network. So we have to ask questions, go over here and talk about what really happened. Yeah, but that's the thing about, you had Trump and you had COVID, and you had the measures after that has now given half of us a complete and utter distrust in the system, to the point where we absolutely do not believe anything they say. There's the other side that will always believe what they say because that is all they have. It is their religion. It is their sense of being, is that they think by being the socialist activists they are, by being the anti-Americanists they are, by being the anti-nation states in Europe, they believe what they've been told because anything else will rock their sense of self and they can't handle it. If somebody were to prove to me that everything I believe is wrong, prove it then. And then I will change my mind and I'll have learned something new. Outstanding. But you damn well better prove it. But I will be willing to listen. I am willing to listen to what anybody have to say. And I think that is the hallmark of, well, that's what we need. I would say that's what we need, good leaders. We don't have leaders, we just have figureheads that are controlled by their monetary influence, just like the Third Reich. Like politicians during the Second World War and ever since, they've all been influenced by money, just like they are today. They may as well do like stock car racing, and the politicians show up and they have a little sponsor jackets of whoever sponsored them, who's paying their bills, who's giving them money, because that is the that is the legislation we're going to get from them. If somebody's sponsored by big pharma or big tech, well, he's going to create laws for them. If he's sponsored by Mobil, he's going to create laws for them. And that's the division we have now. So some people you can never reach with a normal conversation. And you have to be aware of that. You have to pitch your battles and keep yourself sane. But you have to remember who you are and base your reality in the research you do. Anyway, so my questions. Absolute power corrupts, and we are now at a point where what scares me the most is, from a study of psychology and of history, is I do not see, and demoralized people, that's correct, and we are demoralized. I do not see a peaceful solution to saving civilization. And that scares me. I thought, we always think that people will wake up and things will turn around. And we always, oh, next election, next this, next that. How are we're going to start making less food, less energy, less petroleum. People are going to freeze to death. People are going to start starving. Then they're going to riot. Then they're going to start. We stopped burning coal because coal was bad for the environment. Well, what did we do before that? We stopped burning wood because burning wood was even worse for the environment. Coal and clean burning coal plants were better for the environment than burning wood. What do poor people do when you take away their heat? They're going to start burning wood for heat. Bad for the environment. You talk about all these green idiots, and they are idiots, because the one thing they won't entertain is more nuclear plants, which is the only thing that potentially could make something of their green utopian electricity world work. But they will not entertain that. That's the only thing. So you know that the Green Deal religious fanatics, and it is a religion for them, you know they're not serious about saving the planet, because they will not entertain the one thing that actually would almost, well, at least could potentially in the future save their or create the utopia they want. And so they just want to destroy. And that's scary. And when you destroy and you make people poorer and you take their food away, guess what's going to happen? Why do you think they took the guns away from people in Canada? Why do you think they're trying so hard to do it here? One thing is we have to protect ourselves from criminals, but we also have to eventually start to protect ourselves from government overreach. And what are you going to do in Europe when they take away your cash and control your movements, and you sat there for 2 years and did nothing about it? I know there's protests. There's protests all over Europe. All over the world there are protests against this. You never see them on TV. Guess what? You don't see the protests going on in China. What happened in China? The Chinese, they really started protesting. They had enough. What have they just done in China? Well, they stopped. They let up on their restrictions. All the COVID lockdowns, they lifted them in China. Now everybody's getting COVID, as expected. They're all getting flu, and then eventually they have a herd immunity, and they'll get better. But the Chinese learned. Westerners, what are the idiots like Trudeau going to do? What are the globalists going to do if they can't lean up against the Chinese dictatorships? Is that they can lock down people? If the Chinese stop locking down people, oops. Well, how can then the globalists don't have anything to point to when they say, "Oh, everybody must lock down, lock down"? They do it in China. Oh, they don't do it in China anymore. Well done in Sweden, you figured it out. I mean, starving Africa. I'm reading your questions. Starving Africa is inevitably going to be the first thing that's going to happen, because now you have, remember, all the food we ate this year was created and harvested the year before. This year, an enormous amount of was not harvested. Grain and foodstuffs did not come out of Ukraine because of the war, which means they're going to be lacking next year. And the idiot globalists who are taking away manure, and like in Holland, they're trying to destroy was it some 400 farms or 4,000 farms. They're trying to close them down and turn them into this. They are actually planning a European globalist city, some city. Blade Runner comes to mind. Fifth Element comes to mind. Anyway, but when food stops being available, well, the first thing that's going to do is not going to make it to Africa. It's not going to make it to the poor countries. It's not going to make it to the Middle East. They have started doing deals. Some of them, Iran started making deals with India, and remember the Russians? They're making deals. The Chinese, the Russians are making deals. What we say is the other side is making deals, but the West, and they're laughing because we are killing ourselves. We are literally turning off our oil, turning off our gas. The Germans had to crank up some coal plants. All of this was predictable. And I'm not going to go politically, but Trump told them this was going to happen. And they laughed at him. He told them that if you don't, you have to start getting your energy somewhere else. And he told them, and they didn't. And here we are. But don't think this is all by accident. And that's the thing we need to learn from World War II, from a knowledge of history. This is not organic. This is engineered. If things happen, they happen because somebody wants them to happen. And that's what we have to remember. Who is it who wants this to happen? None of the globalists probably give a damn about the African starving. The problem with the African starving is more refugees, for the longest part, both from the Middle East and from Africa, and they're coming to Europe, the economic refugees, and the Europeans are letting them in. They can barely take care of themselves. Same thing here. Why are they coming? Why are all these caravans being organized from all of South America and all of the Latin countries up to here? It's organized. It's not like because a family of two decides to start walking from Colombia and to show up here. It's organized. It's plans. It's a migration. And there are UN and non-governmental agencies involved in this. It's a mass redistribution of people and of wealth. It's all engineered. And that's why do you think the borders are not closed? Why did the British not shut their borders? 1,000 people come over at night. 5 million have crossed the American border that we know of in 2 years. That is an invasion. Not women and children, all of them. The majority of the people that are immigrating around are men in the military age. And no one's raising the flag. We're discriminating. Oh, we don't want to. Who's pulling these people's threads? Who has the control files and all these politicians who's not doing anything? And why are you not all taking to them? I'm not advocating any kind of violence or demonstrations or protests, but you have to make your voice heard. And not just the couple of hundred of us here, but we have to start thinking, what are we going to do? What are we going to do when the food's out? The globalists, those with money, will have food the longest. That means the European countries, the Americas, we will have food longer than the ones in Africa, the Middle East. They will starve. Then the migration will continue. Then eventually there'll be enough immigrants in Americas and Europe that then there won't be enough food here. Then everyone will starve. And then eventually they will sit on their mountaintop surrounded by their armed guards. And then when the armed guards, when their families start starving, then what? Then you have the mass revolution. And then who's going to be in charge? And yes, everything happens for a reason, but I don't think these people have thought this through to the point where they understand that human nature is what it always was. It is about individual freedom and liberty and right. You can cow people like you did in the Soviet Union. Even in China, there's an implicit pact where the Chinese people, to some degree, is you are surveilled, but you are cared for to some degree. And you take it, and we give it, and there's this. What is the implicit pact we have in the Western world? What's the pact the British people have with the British government? Are they keeping them safe? No. Are they keeping them protected? No. Are they having a hospital care, medical? No. Demonstrating law and order? No. Good policing? No. What do we have here? Enormous amounts of drugs. We're having far more people dying from drug overdoses and drugs than from gunshots and automobile accidents. And most of the people who are shot with gunfire in America are justifiably self-defense or gang violence. It's hard to see what the implicit pact they think they have. They're promising universal income to let people sit at home, do nothing but die on drugs. Was it Schwab that said let them play video games and do drugs and sit at home and it just changes? Bored people do. And then what do poor people do when they go for a walk? And there's the next thing or the next thing or the next thing, lock them down. So you can't go for a walk. You're not allowed here. You're not allowed to travel. You're not allowed to do this. Oh, we no longer have cash money. We won't have digital currency. Digital currency. Well, we don't like you to buy hamburgers because cows are so they're talking about this openly. It's not a conspiracy. They're actually passing laws to this effect. We don't want you to eat meat because your carbon score is too high. So you can't go to the supermarket and buy a steak, but you can buy whatever, tofu egg or something. Oh, you can't go to buy a gun store anymore because, the credit card companies have started not allowing the credit card usage at gun stores or shooting ranges, which is happening here. And now find out that BlackRock, who is with their nightmarish banking system, are supporting some of the fighters in Ukraine. Now, I'm sorry, but if BlackRock is involved, then we have a problem because then we might be on the wrong side because they're not on our side. If you ever heard of the ERC score and a CRT score, this all is so big and so heavy that it's almost impossible for us little people, except we can decide to not spend our money in organizations or businesses that support this. But what we can do is take our own little communities. We have to learn skills. We have to take care of each other because they're not going to. We have to learn to know our neighbors. We have to get to know the people around us. We have to know who to call when things go down. And if they take our cash away, which they're trying, and they probably will if we don't put our foot down hard enough, then, well, I would like to trade I can protect somebody who can sew my clothes, and maybe there's a farmer I can trade with for a bike part, something. We have to go back to how did they survive the Big Depression? Everybody had a skill back then. Today, so many, especially younger people, have no damn skill. They're useless. They can't harvest. They can't sew. They can't fight and protect the women and children. They can sit at home, play video games, and get stoned. What's going to happen to them when there's going to be rioting and fighting and no food in the street? What's going to happen where there's nothing for them and they actually have to go try to find a farmer and harvest a field? If I was young now, I would learn skill. You need to learn skills. To young people, trade college. Don't go to college. Go to trade school. Learn how to weld. Learn how to cook. Learn how to grow food. Learn something productive. Learn how to do infrastructure. We can't get things built around here because we don't have enough people who know how to build things. I mean, how do we get to the point where a mechanic gets $300-400 an hour, a welder gets $300-500 an hour? Because it is a skill that a lot of people don't have, and it's something that's easy to learn. Well, instead of sitting at home with your kids, don't send them off to college. Send them off to learn something that's productive. So there, learn from the Amish. Yeah, maybe that's probably where I would go. If the balloon goes down, I'm going to pack all my guns and my shiny Harleys and go to the Amish. I don't think they're like that. I don't think the Amish would like my Harleys. Anyway, digital currency is the last vestige of robbing us of any kind of freedom and independence. It is the end of the line. I go to Europe, a lot of banks don't have. They don't have. There are banks in Denmark where they don't have cash. There are banks where the places don't take cash. And other places where they don't want to take credit cards, which I get. You wish you made that much. All my bikes are built slowly and cheaply. They just look cool. An Amish horse carriage. Yeah, I mean, hell, can you ride a horse? And tomorrow we're setting up for the Rose Parade with my unit, bringing the horses out and that on Monday. By the way, gender studies. Yeah, how's the gender studies working for you? Yeah, I guess it's funny. I was talking to a young person the other day, and he was talking about, yeah, this is one of his friends are taking a gender study class, and like, how many genders are there in reality? And his liberal friend, oh well, there's no, what are you going to do with that degree? What job are you going to get? When reality hits, what can you do with that? Everybody in China, the majority of Chinese children want to be an astronaut. The majority of American children want to be an influencer. Are you kidding? I mean, come on. Come on, man. Anyway, Pro welder makes. Oh, I mean, I really need to learn how to weld. I suck at it, but I'm pretty sure I can figure it out. But yeah, we got to live in the real world, not the fantasy world, and that all. There's not enough people watching me for me to be influencing anything. Hey, kid! Damn, Lady Blah Blah's here. How have you been? I am talking about your part of the world. Sorry, I just saw a face there in the chat that I haven't seen for way too long. I thought we lost you to globalist overreach. And oh yeah, I will be going to Holland as well, and France. I'm still trying to get to Norway. Still trying to get to. There's some interesting underground places. I hope I can go to Russia soon. Really, but we will see. We'll see what happens next year. It's been a long time. As the lady and I, we had a Luftwaffe bunker we were supposed to go see, where they wouldn't let us in. They let me walk around it, and that doesn't work well for me. I'm going to try again this year to read them. There's a lot of people last time that turned into places we really want to see, but timing was just off. And I don't know if you remember Pycrit. No, that was the ice cement. Cement ships. We made cement like Liberty ships made in cement concrete, and Americans did as well. And there's still one of them sitting on the water, and we're going to go visit that. Did not know the Germans did that. I love when I learn something new, and it's a bit of a walk through the biggest chemical plant, one of the biggest chemical plants of the war. So we're going to take a look at that. And if I could go back, I would become a mechanic so I can actually fix my thing. We all subscribe to her, by the way. And I just think I have a jacket for you. Long story. I guess the partition was sabotaged to you last night. Didn't know anybody sabotaged me last night. I had a great workout. No need to go to trade school. Well, you know, if they go to trade school, they learn how to work. You learn physical reality. You're not living a virtual make-believe life. Same thing as I like to read books, because a book that was published can't be taken offline or disappeared. Like if you put an article up, it can disappear, it can be rewritten, it can change. If you have it in your hand, a hammer and a nail, if you know how things work, you're probably going to be a better person because you have a practical applicability to reality. You can take reality. That's why some network want to ask me if I want to do clip shows. I'm like, do clip shows. I want to go to the places. I want to touch places. I want to go through them. I want to see them. I want to be there and experience them in real life, or because then it seems more real. It's easy to describe something when you're standing in it than it is if you just see pictures of it. And again, they can be just distorted. I'm looking for. Sorry, don't sleep much. Um, Hungary. I would like to go to Hungary. Czechoslovakia this some time. I'll see. And Happy New Year to all of you. Yeah, well, we're coming up on so you guys in Europe should be face down drunk, about to celebrate the new year, and nothing new from History Channel. Shows will be on Amazon TV as soon as we finish the digital. There's subtitles and some stuff that's digital formatting issue crap. Don't worry about it. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Like I don't remember. I said that on the thank you. Santa Claus. Like I don't know if I said that on this one or the one before, but now that we have the members up on Lost Battlefields and slowly more and more stuff is coming up, I know the informational and document page is going to get really long. Scroll down. Suck it up. It is. Maybe one of the other pages will turn into another one. Sticking up some movies, some entertainment as well, and some more lectures. It does take quite a bit of work to set up things, but everything that comes from YouTube and donations and Lost Battlefield memberships, all of that goes into the travel account, and the travel account only, just so you know. And I am trying to, for every investigative show we did, I will upload every, like we did for the Blockhouse, for the French sites. All that is already up on the website and the membership area, and we'll do the the Yona style pictures as well. I just got some of them, so it's going to take a little bit of time, but it all comes up. I am working full-time job to make up for YouTube didn't do this year, so it takes a little time to get everything done. And Robert up in Canada is doing a lot of work, and on the website and helping me out. Crystal is helping me out, and Crystal's out of the hospital. Thank God for that. And I love those of you guys who actually have sent me a physical letter. I got Christmas mail. I love it, not just because there's money in it. I just when I got the Christmas cards with the little Christmas, the little stars and the little things in it. I haven't got one of those since my mom was alive, and she was the last one of the family to die. So it's kind of funny. It's not that I'm not telling you all to send me Christmas cards. We'll get back to that next year. But to actually get a physical card from someone with the nicest handwriting in the world, although it's impossible to read, but it's nice. Just like what my great grandmother wrote me. Oh, God. I still have letters of my great grandmother I'm trying to read, but it is what Christmas used to be, and that is what Christmas should be for all of you. Whether it's Christmas or it's New Year or whatever holiday, whenever there's a holiday, make it a point to invite your friends and your family and the people you like to be around. Come on over and cook something and hang out and talk about stuff. That's what we always do. Every time there's a holiday or an excuse to light up a cigar, I'll invite my friends over and I'll cook European food, because then we get together. And you actually have get-togethers. You don't meet at a restaurant. You don't go see a movie. You get together and talk, because that's how you get together with the people you care about, just like we're doing here. I'm not adverse to DeSantis, but for the next election, if we can accept that we have an election, I probably too jaded to talk about honest elections. And I think the Europeans, considering how easy it is to manipulate software, you may want to start rethinking what's actually going on. Although most of the laws that are governing the EU has been done and drawn up by nameless bureaucrats. You don't know their names. They don't care about you. They just write up crap because that's whatever somebody gave them money to do. Your own politicians are, at this point in time, almost meaningless unless they really want. But the politicians I would like to see around the world now are people who are actually not the nice, polished, sweet politician, slick hair. I want somebody who is going to stir up some shit and actually bring the countries back on, whether it's this one or England or the European countries individually. I would like to see a little bit more nation building. I think that's the wrong term to use. I would like to see a little bit more of individual patriotism, a little bit of love of country and history and culture for all cultures. Love your country wherever you're from, but protect it. Protect your heritage, protect where you came from, and remind the young generation of the traditions that you used to have and where they came from. I'm going to try, but it's each one of you try to make it your mission to lift a teenager into the way things used to be, in the sense that, I don't know, in the 90s, early 90s, we had stuff to look forward to. Cold War was ending. We had all these techno advances. The music was awesome, and girls were pretty and had big hair. And what do teenagers have to look forward to today? Get locked up, do drugs, play video games, look idiots on the American version of TikTok, ruin your life, sit at home, change your gender every other day. Damn. I mean, come on. We are better as human beings than that. And we have to know that. And we're back to our own internal constitution of knowing what's right and wrong. And there are some people who are trying to figure that out because they are being bombarded by all this external input, and help them find out who they are, help them find a normal, a roadmap back to a sense of self. And hopefully a sense of history or understanding of human behavior can do that. All right, and now I insist you all go drink your brains out, because I'm working, and tomorrow I will be in uniform, and on Monday we'll be doing the Rose Parade with our unit. Actually, I don't have any time off. Great. I probably Monday. Since you are hopefully all sitting at home Monday, you need something to watch. I'm putting up an episode for you Monday. Well, a short one from one of Kamala's tunnels that was built by American GIs. Yes. And tomorrow, I'm going to put up do a car show. Some of Van Halen's custom car I got to play with. And 26 MOD. We are the cavalry detachment of the Cal Guard. And I'll post some pictures on that. I for some reason am on Twitter again. Not really. I think like one follower on Twitter. Robert, is that what we have? And Machine. Don't forget about Machine. Machine is doing merchandising. Lost Battlefield merchandising. That's one thing I wanted to talk to you all about, but we'll talk about that later. We're trying to figure out what merchandising you asked for. So we're looking at coffee mugs and some T-shirts and some things. Machine is doing that. That's you. He's right there. So Machine and Robert and Crystal are really helping me out, because I don't even have time to read my own emails, as you know. So if it wasn't for those guys, we would not be virally as much as we are. And we also, so anyway, we're on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook. There's a Lost Battlefield Facebook page. There's a My Road Facebook page as well. And I really, really, really do hope that we can get another 450 people to follow My Road with Tino Struckman. That's the car show, bike show, food show channel that I have. We need that running parallel too, because it's set up as a new channel, and the funding for that, I can't monetize until I have 1,000 people. That monetization will go to Lost Battlefields, of course. But I need to get 1,000 people on there, and we need 450 short on My Road. So even if you don't give a damn about bikes, cars, or motorcycles, but you want to support Lost Battlefields, just follow My Road, because that way I can stick some movies on there and we can get some. It doesn't cost me anything to go do motorcycles, food, cars. It costs me a fortune to do military history. Anyway, the link is, I put up, every time there's a link for a car show or something, it links to that channel. But it's in my on my what's it called? What? Like it's on the wall. Oh, it's been a very long year. Next year's going to be longer. And I will see you all out in Europe. Before I start planning my trip to Europe next year, well, we're going to be talking. Um, there's get some specific places and locations and coordinates in place. Try to plan the next trip a little bit more in depth. Um, Retirement funds. I had a bankruptcy in 2011. There are no more. There are no more retirement. And when I became an American citizen, whatever I had of retirement from Denmark and from the military and from out there is also gone. So there is no retirement. I am it. When I'm getting ready to kick the bucket, I have a couple of Harleys that hopefully will pay for the coffin. There. Or I'll just walk into one of Kamala's tunnels and blow it behind me. I'll do a Guring. That'll be a great conspiracy. Explorer, 98-year-old explorer disappeared in Nazi tunnel. Yeah, let's do that. Anyway, retirement. That's not going to happen. Besides, some point in time, I'm going to get a 22-year-old girlfriend that's going to insist I keep making a crap ton of money and see, keep me young but overworked until I die of a heart attack. Yay! We all have dreams. It's the holidays, Christmas things. And anyway, like I said, we're all going to die, but it's what we do until then that matters. And you guys all go out, have fun. I will chat with you later, and you guys have a great new year. And if you accidentally happen to dispatch a couple of squirrels on the way with your fireworks, and they live on my patio, I ain't gonna complain about it. Did I mention I really don't like squirrels? Thank you, my brother. I appreciate it. Like I said, everything you give that I asked for goes straight into the travel fund. And I would like to figure March is the latest I can pull it. Anyway, I will be on the chat tomorrow and Monday, unless I'm, depending on when we are riding, I may not be. Depends. One of the guys will be. I will be attending or stuff, I guess. I'll post some pictures on Instagram or Facebook or whatever dumbass I'm doing. You guys have a good night. You have fun. You all take care. Be safe. Don't get caught when you are being not safe. Yes, be bad, but don't get caught.